What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Cohen is back there today. Well, this is TW Motorsports, if you guys didn't know, but today we are doing the first mod on the Trans Am, and it's a big one, guys. It is a big one. We are going to tear it apart and put a single turbo on it. Okay, we're not doing that. That was a joke. Although that is what he wants. We are working on, look, hey, he's 17, so you gotta have bump and radio. And so that is what we're working on today. We are gonna take, look, every speaker for the most part almost sounds like it's blown. It's a telltale sign when you get in one of these cars and the bass is turned down on the factory radio. I don't know if you guys have had these, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The speakers generally are trash as these things age. It's just, there's nothing you can do about it. So today, he bought, and all of this is his funding, guys. I will list a link to all the stuff that he's using down below, but today we're gonna focus on the head unit. And I'm very picky. I will not put a head unit in one of these cars unless the steering wheel controls work. So we're gonna hook that up. We're gonna put an aftermarket double dent in this, which requires obviously a little bit of work. Most of our work will be on the bench as far as soldering, but he bought a radio with same exact radio we put in his Camaro. And then the other thing he bought was he actually ponied up and bought key audio components. So it comes with new door speakers, sail panel speakers, and the rear section here. So I can't even think of what they're called, the hatch panel speakers. So it is a whole kit. And everybody says, like in the old LS1 Tech days, guys, they say that it is really the business. And I think, what did you get, stage 4, stage 3? Stage 3. So he has like a 3, a 4, and a 5. The 5 and the 4, honestly, guys, is more of a subwoofer back here in this corner. And I don't know, we didn't really need that. So, but anyway, today, let's go look at what we've got to do. We've got, and like I said, we're just doing the radio today. So you need a couple things to make this happen. And like I said, I'll list all this stuff below, but this is the key audio stuff. These two, this box up here. This one right here, though, is the radio we're gonna do. Guys, it's not a super expensive piece. I wanna say it's like $250 to $300. It works really well. It has Bluetooth. You really don't need much more than this. So it is a double den. Obviously, in order to put a double den in one of these cars, since they have a den and a half, you're gonna have to have one of these guys, which is the Metra adapter. I've actually had this since the Formula, because I was gonna do something in the Formula, and obviously we sold it. Then you need an access. This is a ASWC-1. This allows us to tap in and use our factory steering wheel controls. That is a biggie. Then you're gonna have to have a GM to Motorola adapter, because the GM plug is a little tiny guy, and the back of these radios are a standard Motorola. So you're gonna have to have that. And then we have to have a wiring harness. This is pretty generic. Even though this thing has the monsoon system, it still uses the standard, what a majority, like, look, it fits 87 to 05. So they use this for a long, long time in these. So let's get started. We're gonna go, I'm gonna set up the light. It doesn't like to fit really well on the T-tops, but I think we can get it to stay stationary if we use a couple towels. And let's get the old radio out first. So we're gonna start here. He's gonna be doing this for the most part. So we're gonna grab, he's got a panel removal tool. I like to put it on the inside here because our clips are in the 4 corners. So generally like right in here, 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 and here. So we wanna pry out. And I don't like pushing against the dash on these. Sometimes if you've got enough nail, oh, look. And then you just trace that around. You want to try to pull out as straight as possible. Yeah, just work your way around. I'll hold it out here and then see if you can get it in there. Okay. So we got that part loose. Now he's got the 7mm on a impact. Let's get these 7s out. Just run it all the way down. There's only 3 in that. And I'd go ahead and take these out because generally, guys, there's a tray between these two that we're gonna have to probably trim in order to get a double din to fit in there. And these are all the same size, so the 7mm, so you don't have to like keep the HVAC ones separate. And then we're gonna pull this radio out. Sometimes you got more room, sometimes it's kind of a, yeah, you kind of gotta move it up and down. It's a tight fit in there, that's for sure. You kind of got to be rough. And then we will unplug everything from the back here. So our antenna unplugs, and then there should be clips on these other two like that in order to get them out. Now we got this out, you can see what I'm talking about. This tray right here generally has to come out. There's just no way to fit. I don't believe our double din, go grab it real quick. We'll check, but I'm pretty sure our double din will not fit in here with this tray in place. There's a piece in the back that the factory radio has that little rubber grommet that sets in, and you're just not gonna have the ability. This radio is probably thin enough to make it fit, but it's definitely, I think it's too wide to fit top to bottom. We'll give it a shot here, but yeah, see, I don't want to cut on the dash. And when I say on the dash, I don't want to trim any of this, because you could potentially trim some of this here, but then you risk it peeling off, and we obviously don't want to have that issue. So we're gonna get probably, I don't know, maybe a Dremel. You could almost cut this with a pair of 10 snips, but what I think I'll do is I'll get a Dremel or my cordless cutoff wheel, and we'll cut this off. It's probably not a bad idea to like pull this out a little, and I may have to reach back in there and mess with the wires to get them, they're clipped down below. But let's not focus on this right now. Let's go look at the harness and what we need to do on the harness end of things, because this right here is your main radio harness. That's that one that I told you worked from 87 to 05. Now over here, we've got a couple things. We have what came out of the box with the radio. Makes sense. Every radio will have a harness. But then we have an adapter harness, because we don't want to cut the factory wiring up to tag this in. This, guys, is really one of those, everything is color coded the way it's supposed to be. So yellow to yellow, red to red, orange to orange, white to white, white with a black stripe, white to a black stripe. We're gonna do that within this entire deal. So I'm gonna cut this apart, and I'll kind of show you in and out of what we're gonna be doing, but I like to solder all my connections and then possibly even heat shrink them. So let's get started with that. And like I said, I'll kind of cut in and out. So using these really handy stripping tool, stripped all the wires off on both the harness for the radio and the harness for the car. You can see my stack of stuff here. Here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with the speaker connections, which, guys, this is pretty easy and pretty common. So our white with no stripe and our white with a black stripe is going to go to the same corresponding one on this. And I'm going to do all the speaker connections first. And the only reason I'm doing that is because our steering wheel control unit, I believe, has to have a ground and a power and possibly a turn on. So we're going to wait and do those 3 connections last. But in the meantime, I got some new solder here I'm going to try. I'm hoping it works a little better than my old stuff. We got some heat shrink tubing, and we're just going to kind of work our way through each one of these, getting them soldered. And there's really not much to that part. I won't bore you guys with like a time lapse of me soldering. I have a soldering gun he's messing around with here, and we'll just kind of see how it works. I also have some flux. This has flux core, so I'm hoping not to have to use flux. And then I also got a brush. I'm having troubles, it seemed like, with my old solder, and I think it's more of a solder issue, making a good solder. So we'll just check in as we go. I'll show you the progress. So now, I guess for different applications is the reason they have so many wires on this, but here's what we need to use. The red wire here, we're gonna hook that in to power accessory power just like we would on the vehicle. So we're going to tie the red on the harness and the harness to the steering wheel control piece. So we're going to put this in line with that. Same way with the black. That's the ground. And then guys, we're only using one other wire because his radio has an adapter for a 3.5 audio jack. So this guy here will plug into this, which plugs into the back of the radio. And then to actually grab the wire that goes to the car that controls that, there's a yellow and green, and you can see the yellow right here, and it has a green stripe on it. That's going to tag into the car. So we'll take you over to the car and show you. It's pin 14. We've got the instructions pulled up here because it doesn't come with anything in the bag. But let's go ahead and get the red, the black, or the positives and the ground soldered in, and then we'll worry about, there's some settings on this as well that we'll have to do. Now we've got the harness completely soldered. We are going to look at this guy right here. So this, according to the instructions here, is pin number 14, but I don't think, guys, it's the same. I don't think that we're tapping into the right thing. According to that, that looks like that pin is on this connector, and it is one, I'm almost 100% sure that it's not. I think it's supposed to be, I just don't think it's on that. It's saying this one right here, this standalone one, I guess. When you look at it, you can see the brown wire, and I don't know that I can even get close enough. It's basically saying, guys, that this right here is your connection point. This standalone blue one from the looks, it looks like it, right? No, there's a green one beside it. So I'm not 100% sure that that's the right wire. It says pin 14, and that's a standalone wire, but here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try it. He's got here in his hand the best thing I think's ever been made. This is called a Positap. And so what's cool about this is it kind of pokes a hole in a wire like that. But the cool thing also is you can take it out and it doesn't cause any issues. So if you guys can see, that goes around the wire, and then this guy screws back together and pokes a small little hole in it. So we'll give it a shot on that and see if that is indeed the wire that goes to the steering wheel controls. But for some reason, that just doesn't seem right to me. But we'll give it a shot. I can't remember for the life of me what this plug was for. And hit the comments and let me know if you guys know. I feel like we have to tie into that one, but maybe I'm wrong. We're gonna put this around this. We're gonna hook that to that yellow and green wire that I showed you just a minute ago on the steering wheel control harness. And then we're gonna give it a test. Now this is going to be just a test run here. We're going to make this harness look a lot prettier, but I wish that if this indeed is the wire that we need to tap into, which you can see I've got my Positap, and we're going to have to trim some off. I know it's a little long, but if this is indeed the case, it'd be nice if this manufacturer like Metra, which I guess, guys, you could buy a second one of these. They're relatively cheap. They're like $8. But if you put a pin through there in this location, because you see they're all empty, if you put a pin through there, then a guy could just plug this in and solder it together so you didn't have to tap like this. But we're just gonna test it here. We've got everything hooked up. He's got the box here. So we're gonna plug the box in, we're gonna plug the radio in, we're gonna plug the harness in, and we're gonna give it a shot. So we're testing it, the radio comes on. One other thing that I didn't show you guys, that Motorola to GM connector for the antenna, he plugged that in. And then this radio has a separate, we're using that 3.5 audio jack that comes out of the access. This little box here, but obviously this whole hookup deal. And so we're gonna give it a test and make sure see how it's flashing. If you go on their website, it shows you how many times it'll flash for whatever radio. So what my goal is here is we're gonna, can you hold that steady? Is we're gonna try to turn the radio up, and it should auto detect if that is indeed the right wire. So we're gonna hold the volume up here, and it should get to the point where it turns it up and down. And this took a while on the Camaro, I remember, because I feel like we tapped into the wrong wire or something. Is ultimately the issue we had there. Is that, what's that thing doing? See how it's flashing red and green? If I remember right, We may have to check the instructions here. I feel like that means it's not programming. We're gonna shut it off and we'll try it again. It flashes red and green like that, and then it gives you a series of codes of reds and greens when it stops doing that. See how it's slowing down? Okay, the display went off. So now let's turn it, let's see if we can turn it back on. Okay, we have volume. So that is indeed the right wire. See how we're going up and down with volume? And then we should have mute. Yep, mute. And then play. Of course, we don't have a CD or anything. It's not a CD player. But we're gonna go over here to seek and see if that works. Yep, seek is working. And then AM, FM, like I don't really care if those work. All I care about mainly is the volume. That's really all you use this for. And it's working, guys. So we can go ahead and make this wiring look a lot prettier. If I have another one of these harnesses, I am going to chop into that and put another pin in and make this look a little nicer, but I'm not sure I have one. So check it out. I had an extra harness laying around that I'm not going to use. I'm going to have to put bad on it now, but I pinned that. I took the lock off, this little blue lock, and we have that pin now. See that pin slid through there? It's the third hole, the third opening. We're going to test that. I like that a lot better than just tapping a wire like they do. So guys, it may be beneficial for you to buy 2 of these harnesses for like $7 in order to have the pins to do this. We just tested that theory, and guess what? It worked. So now that we know that, I'm going to go ahead and crimp or cut off the rest of these wires a little shorter. I'm going to tape this up and make it look really nice. And then we're going to worry about the fitment of the radio, because obviously we've got some work to do with that as far as getting both the tray trimmed and making the radio, you know, right, left, up, down, kind of centered in this new piece. Wanted you to see kind of how we wrap this all up. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys. Back the radio, kind of behind the dash. We want it back. We don't want it close to the radio. Same way here, that's the original connector. So just looks a lot nicer. You don't have a bunch of wires catching stuff if you had to pull the radio out. This is how I do things, guys. So now we're gonna move on to, we're gonna cut, I think we're gonna use the 10 snips to try to possibly cut that tray out. That's where we're gonna start anyway, just because they're pretty sharp and they seem to do okay. So we're gonna take these over there and give it a shot, and then we're gonna get the side pieces on the radio, kind of start fitting those. I don't know if there's a left and a right. Oh, yeah, there is. There's an R on that one for the right side of the radio, and then this one probably has, yep, an L in it. Remember, we have one bolt on one side and 2 bolts on the other side, so it should make sense when you line it up with the radio. That made quick work of things. I don't know if we'll keep this. I mean, look, guys, you gotta break stuff. You gotta break some eggs to make a cake, right? So anyway, we got that. I think we're gonna go ahead and put the 7s back in there just by hand, and this will give us an idea. We're gonna keep the wiring completely out of the equation right now. We're not even worried about that. We want to make sure that the radio is gonna fit. So we're gonna go ahead and put those adapters on the right side and the left, and then we're gonna do kind of some test fitting. Just throw that down the crack of the seat so we'll never find it. And so once we get this back in, we'll go over, put those, like I said, the clips on the side, and then we're gonna test fit the radio. And the new bezel, okay, so the outline bezel comes with new plastic clips to clip in the holes. So we've got to put those on. It doesn't ship that way. I'll show you that here in just a second too. We got it in the, we're gonna try this position first. And so we basically just set it on there. We're still gonna have some adjustment. The likelihood of us putting it in there and it fitting the first time is like not happening. But these guys, see these these are the plastic clips that hold this thing in the dash, and we really need to kind of test fit this as we go. But these kind of screw on, and honestly, guys, we probably shouldn't even put them on yet. As a matter of fact, I'm going to twist that one back off. But you got to get them square, and they kind of, it's kind of a one-time fit. So it kind of threads into the plastic as you're going. But I actually think I'm going to keep that loose for right now. And the main reason is because if we're pulling it in and out, I don't want to risk breaking it. And we're just using this for a fitment guide on, you know, does the radio need to go up and down? So this is the first test fit. Got just 2 of the screws in. Now these line up great. Let's see what happens when we do this. I don't think this is going to be so great, but we'll see. Looks like crap. Should have just left it alone. These G-Dog radios, you know, gotta have a G-Dog radio. Perfect. Dadgummit, it does fit pretty good. What's unbelievable, guys, you can't make this up. It fits. Where's the light? I don't think it fits right to left really great.
You just didn't push this far back enough, and then the clips aren't in either, so it doesn't.
Dadgum, that's pretty square.
It's better than what?
Holy cow! Like the likelihood of this happening is ridiculous. We're gonna roll with this. This is crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those clips on like we were talking about. We're going to get, I may put a couple more of the pan heads in the side, just because we you know, and we got to snug those up a little bit. But holy cow, that's incredible. It's go time. Got the wiring here, thread it back out. So guys, here's how I like to do this. I kind of like, there's a big piece of metal right here. Kind of try to push that back and thread I'm going to try to thread this wiring around it as we go. It's definitely more exciting now that we have this pinned for the turn on the steering wheel controls, because we don't have to worry about that oddball wire hanging around. So we only have to make 2 connections in the car, and that's the antenna, which he's got the adapter over there in the floor. We can go ahead and put it on, and then this, and then like I said, we're just going to kind of route this back in the back as we go. And then hopefully our trim piece, I've got those screwed on the side. Hopefully it still fits like it did just a minute ago. So this has some walk back and forth, and I didn't notice that until we got it in here. What we kind of did, and we didn't do it on purpose, but if you see the opening here where it sets on this little dowel, we kind of split the difference here, and it seems to work pretty good. So now we're going to snap this piece in, and it's a tight fit. You kind of got to, I'm watching behind. I don't want to break any tabs or anything, but we'll get it snapped in, and we're going to test it again. All right, so now we can complain about what I don't like. It fits really good. It actually does. This piece snapped in really nice. It looks almost factory. You know, it's a little off as far as color. It doesn't have the texture like the dash does. That's my only, you know, real hang up with this. As far as the fitment, guys, it fits really well. It really does. There's a little bit of a gap on the top side of the radio, but like we were just talking, a lot of your older school radios, even the double dents, had a faceplate that snapped on it. And you notice this is kind of recessed. I believe the one in my Trans Am is a different model radio, and it has a faceplate. So you kind of set the radio out just a hair, and then the faceplate covers that gap. There's a little bit of a gap. If you're looking all the way up, you can barely see it, but you would always want to keep that on the top, because you'd have to be looking from the bottom. As far as where you're setting here, there's no gap along the bottom. Everything looks really nice. And if a guy really wanted to get the SEM paint, he could paint this to where the match was like dead on. But it's close enough. It actually looks pretty good. And anyway, let's turn it on and make sure that it still works, because we haven't done that actually since we've put it in. Hopefully the radio or the steering wheel control works. Man, this sucks. It's so, I hate pulling these apart because you're always afraid you're going to break them, you know. Woo! All right, well, it is working. That is exciting. We're not going to play any music. Guys, the speakers are all blown, so it doesn't really matter. But it's in. So the first big mod is done. You know, it's important. Makes the car go way faster. And it's got a radio. Definitely looks good, guys. I will say that. It looks almost factory in these cars. They've done such a good job of making, you know, parts and stuff over the years. But man, this car, I like this car. Not gonna lie, I really like this car. So in the next video on this thing, unless he comes up with a whole bunch of money and decides to turbo this thing and all the other parts that go along with the turbo, which I'm pretty sure that's not gonna happen.
What?
Anytime.
Oh, turbo?
Anytime soon. No time soon. We'll be putting the rest of the stereo stuff in, and that will be a little more. I don't want to say it's going to be more work than this was, because this wasn't bad. It's just a lot of soldering, but we're going to be soldering connections on the doors and the speakers as well, because I don't like, while we're not going to keep the factory speakers, as soon as they come out, they're going in the trash. There's no sense in keeping those. You know, if they're blown, they're blown. This does sound better than the factory radio, I will tell you that. So the speakers are still blown though. When we put a little bit of bass to it, it gets a little gross sounding. So I'm kind of excited to hear this Key Audio stuff, because I've done some research on it in the past. I've never used it. I was really liking the stereo that we put in his Camaro, but there was just some oddball things on those speakers. They're really not set up for the Monsoon style. This guy has spec'd all this stuff to work with the factory amp and whatnot. So I think we're probably gonna get a better product here, but we'll just have to see. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please, like always, go down there and smash that thumbs up button. Guys, if you are not subscribed, go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there doing all of that stuff, ring the bell icon that notifies you every time we drop a new video, and stay tuned to see what we get done on this thing next.